and I am reporting live from Lagos, Nigeria, West Africa. Well, today on the show, we are going to be talking about Tigray. And I'm sure you're wondering, why are we talking about Tigray? Well, it's part of Africa. And whatever problems that African countries and our African brothers and sisters are experiencing or facing, we talk about it, we bring light to these issues, and of course, we try to get attention from the rest of the world. And today, we're going to be looking at the crisis in Tigray, what's happening right now. We're going to give you updates. As at today, while I was at work, a special envoy, is supposed to visit the Prime Minister of Tigray to mediate on the issue. But what's happening in Tigray has somewhat caused the humanitarian crisis. Most of the people who knew Tigray as their home have now had to become refugees in Sudan. I have a couple of videos and pictures to show you that could tell a little story about what's happening in Tigray. Something that could have been possibly handled better has become a humanitarian crisis for the people of Tigray. Now, you wonder where Tigray is. I'll give you a little background into Tigray before I introduce my guest, who is a citizen of Tigray. Now, Tigray is a region, apparently a regional state, according to the Ethiopian constitution. It's the northernmost region of Ethiopia. Tigray is the homeland of the Tigrayan, the Europe, and the Kunama peoples. Tigray is also known as Region 1, according to the federal constitution of Ethiopia. Its capital and the largest city is Mekele. Tigray is the fifth largest by area, the fifth most populous, and the fifth most densely populated of 9 regional states in Ethiopia. And one would wonder why what is happening in Tigray is happening in the 21st century. Well, my guest will be helping us to understand why this is happening. My guest is an activist. He is also a researcher. He's from Tigray. I spoke to him yesterday, and I'm so delighted to talk to him again today. Tekle Gabriel Michael is my guest. Tigray, it's good to have you join us on the show. I hope I didn't murder your name. I tried my best.
Fair enough. That was good.
Okay, great.
Thank you for having
I
me.
know I know that I have seen a lot of people tweeting about Tigray. There's been a hashtag about Tigray. Some people are referring to what's happening as a genocide. Some people say it's a dictatorship. There's so many ways to describe what's happening in Tigray. We've had the political perspective, we've had the perspective of the outsider looking in, but you are an insider, even though you are not, as we speak, in Tigray, you are in Sweden. But walk us through what's been going on in Tigray and why the situation has gotten this bad.
Oh, well, first of all, about people's fears. If you look at the evidence on the ground, all roads lead to one thing, and that is that there is a very, very good chance of genocide or even war crime and those kind of extremely, extremely grave, heinous crimes. So people are extremely worried that these kind of crimes are next door. And that's why people on Twitter are almost on a campaign to make the international community aware of what is looming. So that is what people on social media like Twitter are doing, including myself. Uh,
Mhm.
Regarding how this came to pass, this is essentially a prime minister who has failed to uh, resolve a political issue, who have essentially turned to war to crush a political enemy. So, like he said, Tigray is one of the regions that constitutes the federal government, and the local government of Tigray have made it clear that they don't agree with the direction the prime minister is taking the country towards. They have made that clear, and from the time that they made that clear, the prime minister has been warning that he was planning to go to war. He has on multiple occasions said that he was going to resolve everything by force. He did that in Somalia, which is one of the regions in Ethiopia. He did that in the Oromia region. He has arrested people he didn't like. He did that in the Amhara region. He has killed people and arrested people who didn't agree with him. And Tigray was essentially the last hurdle towards his journey towards a vision, towards a unitary vision of the country. And he was looking for an excuse. Now, according to the government's telling, the casus belli, the main cause of the war, is an alleged military attack by the TPLF. By the TPLF is the regional, the party that is in charge of the regional government. So the government, according to the government's telling, the TPLF had ambushed a military base in the north, and they consider this to be so irredeemable, so grave, that mass starvation and bombing of cities and thousands of people fleeing to Sudan, ethnic-based persecution and profiling, every crime that you can imagine is justified. That's the essentially the government's and the government supporters' argument.
Yeah.
So that is the state of affairs as it stands today.
Okay. 8 hours ago, the Prime Minister yet again declared an assault on the regional capital of Mekele. Now, this is a day after he had spoken to the international community, saying they need to stand down until they're invited, and he's saying that he can handle this because it is an internal issue. But for an issue where the whole world thinks that his approach to it has not necessarily been peaceful, neither has it brought a solution to the problem. One would think that he would take two steps backwards to deal with the issue. I would like to, for those of us who are not Ethiopians and do not know if there's been a long-standing issue between the Tigrayans and the Ethiopian government at the center, what could be the issue that's hardening the heart of the Prime Minister, who, for those of us who do not know, holds a Nobel Peace Prize, which means that he should be a peacemaker instead of declaring war on his people? What could be the issue? Is there a deep-seated issue that we're yet to understand, or is this purely political?
Well, one explanation can be found in the personality of the Prime Minister. He has implied many times that he is divinely preordained to do certain things. So now that he has waged war, he believes he had God and this all saints on his side, and he thinks that he is destined to win this war. And to admit that he was wrong to wage war, or to retreat, would imply that he is fallible somehow. This is something that he can't admit to. So he thinks anything that he starts, anything that he does, is by definition is right. So that is his personality. He has implied many times. He has written in his book. He has actually said that his mother, when he was 7 years old, had told him that he was destined to do great things for Ethiopia. He was going to create a kingdom. He was going to become a king, and that is one explanation. The other explanation is his entire support base. They want him to go and kill all the enemies and come back with a trophy. So negotiation or dialogue or anything short of annihilating or destroying the entire of Tigray would constitute a huge failure for his support base. So he has his support base to appease to, and his personality, and you see these things, and the only thing that he can do is war. So that is why I think he is absolutely insistent that war is the only solution to the problem that he sees.
I want to welcome our viewers. Thank you, everyone who's watching, including those of us who are watching from Twitter, Facebook. Please feel free to ask us questions, put out your comments. We'd love to hear from you. But I found a video by the UNHCR showing Tigrayans who had escaped to Sudan, and the situation. I mean, automatically these guys have become refugees. But this is what they had to say. I just want to play a video just to give people an understanding of what people are going through right now, in case you do not understand the veracity of the situation in Tigray. So we'll come back right after that video and we'll take your thoughts. All right, stay with us.
Refugee, we never expected. I can tell you for sure, 100%. At least we are safe. We didn't hear any kind of explosion. We didn't hear any kind of weapons. We are here very safe, actually. There's a lot of challenge right here because when we trying to escape, we didn't take any kind of luggage or baggage. We just only escaped.
We have a challenge. It is mainly relocating the refugees. The process, the trip takes more than 15 hours from this reception center to the Umrakuba camp in the Darif estate. So it is a lot of work we do.
Refugee, we never expected. I can tell you for sure, 100%.
Okay, so that is, I just wanted to play that video. I could see the emotions coming from you, Tekle. I'm certain your heart goes out to your people, but this is the situation, and I wanted those who are watching to understand the situation of the people in Tigray. Now, it has become a humanitarian issue, whether we live it or not. But let's talk about the people who are left in Tigray. There's a total blackout from the conversations I've had with you and other people. There is no communication. People don't even know what's happened to their family members or their friends. And I'm talking about people who are outside of Tigray. So I know you have family in Tigray, Tekle. Have you been able to hear anything from them? And now, how does this make you feel?
Not at all, not at all. And it's not just me. Nobody from outside Tigray has been able to make any kind of connection to Tigray for the last 25 years. So what you have is a biblical darkness, really. No one has any idea as to what might be transpiring in the region, how many people might have died, how many people might be starving, how many cities have been shelled and bombed and destroyed. There is absolutely no way to know. The only source of information we have is the government TV outlets, which obviously don't show you the damage. So it's a very very harrowing thing what we are witnessing, really. But while we're at it, I would like to actually express my gratitude to the government of Sudan. Historically, Sudan has been a safe haven to Tigrayans, not just during this war, but even before, when people had to flee Tigray, they have always found a safe haven in Sudan. So I would like to say thank you to the government and people of Sudan. But another story in there is that there are reports coming today that the Ethiopian government is actually blocking people now from fleeing to Sudan because the government is worried that its image might be tainted by the refugees. Not only is it blocking people, but it's also forcefully returning people from Sudan to the capital, to Addis Ababa. And we wouldn't know what the government might be planning to do to these people, because the government obviously isn't happy people have fled to Sudan, because international media have picked this up, and the government doesn't like it. So it's a huge crisis that's going on in Sudan.
It is indeed. Now, earlier on today, while I was speaking with you, I did make mention of the fact that there is an envoy, a delegation of former African leaders, a handful of them, who are making their way to Addis Ababa to visit the prime minister, even though he had put out a caveat saying he doesn't want anybody to get involved. But of course, these people are acting as mediators on behalf of the African Union. And I did ask you this question earlier, and I'm going to ask it again for the benefit of those who are watching us. is there any glimmer of hope as to someone being able to reach a soft spot in the heart of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to, you know, maybe backstep on what he's doing? Because, like I said, a few hours ago, he declared another assault on Mekele. Do you see these men and women, and they include Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, former president of Liberia, I beg your pardon, former South African presidents, also among these people? Do you see them being able to reach some human side of the prime minister to maybe form
Yeah.
some sort of a truce, for the want of a better word?
Well, so when I saw the names of the people that make up the envoy, I was really hopeful, because they are very reputable people, obviously, and I had as had other people high hopes that they were going to do something meaningful, but those hopes have since been dashed by what they have been saying. So essentially, now today, the prime minister published a statement that said that he had received them as elderly, and nothing else, not as envoys, not as diplomats, not as people trying to mediate, but as African elderly who went all the way to Addis Ababa to share their wisdom. So that is how the prime minister framed their visit. And not only that, but the members of the envoy have, yesterday or the day before yesterday, told the EU and the AU to stop interfering in Ethiopia, because according to them, African problems should be solved by Africans only, but they haven't been doing anything in the way of solving the problem. So any hopes that I have been completely dashed, really.
Hmm. Interesting. And for you to say that, your hopes are dashed. I mean, for us who are out here hoping that, something good might come out of this, can we totally just jettison the hope that this might just happen? And don't forget, there's an issue of food security right now. I spoke to someone from Crisis Group a few days ago, and Mr. Davison, and he was complaining about the fact that aid is unable to get through to the people who are stuck in Tigray. So not only are these people shut out from the world, in terms of communication, but there is a food insecurity issue. These people are hungry and they have no access to aid. Somebody asked the question that I want to ask also. Pablo here is asking, uh, are there concerns of a civil war, a full-blown civil war that may come as a result of the stubbornness of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed?
Well, I actually think that there is a full-fledged civil war going on now. It's not just there are concerns. It's actually that there is a civil war now. There has been reports of people people from the Amhara region who went to the western part of Tigray and started shooting people indiscriminately, and they started raping children as young as 5 years old, raping them. And there are reports that people with, actually, this is very cruel, very cruel to believe, but people who are HIV/AIDS carriers deliberately sent to Tigray to rape people so that they would infect as many people as possible. But civil war is already in full swing. That's my understanding, and not just mine, but other
I'm sorry to
reporters.
talk over you, but I just heard you mention something that's really disturbing, and I don't know how authentic or how true this is, but did you say that people who are infected with HIV are deployed to Tigray to rape and infect people? I'm
Absolutely.
not sure. I'm gonna have to, ascertain how truthful this is. But did you
Well,
say that?
but yeah, but one of the difficult things is it's extremely difficult to ascertain any allegation. But the signals that have been coming from Addis Ababa and from the Amhara region is that uh, essentially people are being given the license, the green light to do whatever they want to do. That is essentially the messaging from the government and from the Amhara regional state. But as to ascertaining an allegation, we can't do that because there is no information from the Tigray government or from the Tigray people, because it has been totally blocked. So you can't ascertain it really. But I'm just floating it around to give you the idea that those are some of the things that are being suspected are being done.
For those who are watching now, because I'm sure that the question would be, what is the fate right now of Tigray? I mean, until the special envoy gets to Ethiopia, and until they have that meeting, we do not know what the outcome of that meeting would be. But with all that's happening right now, what do you think is the fate? And I need you to, I know it's difficult to say you should remove yourself from the situation, but where do you think this is all going to lead? Is there an end in sight? Is there a solution? Do you have any ideas on how, if you were to sit across the table to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and he might probably be in one of the best moods, and he's asking for an idea as to how this issue can be dealt with without people being made refugees or without people dying in the line of fire, what would that suggestion be?
Well, so the Tigray people and the Tigray government, all they want is they want to be left alone. That is really the only demand they are making. They aren't asking for much. They want to be left alone, and they don't want to accept any diktat from Addis Ababa. Addis Ababa, on the other hand, can't live with the fact of having a regional government who hasn't completely capitulated to its diktats and orders. So they are on two extreme ends. So I can't see any solution, because neither of them are have shown a history of compromise and give and take and stuff. So it's extremely difficult for me to find a middle ground. But my suggestion would be that there should be an immediate ceasefire, at least. That should be my suggestion, and then all other possibilities can be brought to the table. But there should be an immediate ceasefire.
Okay. Lastly, I would like to, for those who are watching us, kindly send us a message. Let us know what you think. I see a lot of people tweeting at us on Twitter. I would like for you to come into the live feed and post the comments. In a few minutes, we're going to wrap this up. I'm just going to play back that video for the benefit of those who are watching, just to see. A few people have gone to Sudan successfully. They are safe. From the video, the young man said that it's safer, even though he never dreamt that he would be a refugee. But this is the situation in Tigray. So there's been so many hashtags, and everybody's trying to make sense of it all as to why there cannot be a ceasefire, as to why there cannot be a truce, as to why the prime minister cannot see reason with the people of Tigray. And just so you know, Tigray is not another country. It is part of Ethiopia. It's in the northern part of Ethiopia. It's not, Ethiopia versus Tigray. Tigray is Ethiopia. But let's take a look at that video, and when we come back, we'll wrap things up.
Refugee, we never expected. I can tell you for sure, 100%. At least we are safe. We didn't hear any kind of explosion. We didn't hear any kind of weapons. We are here very safe, actually. There's a lot of challenge right here, because when we're trying to escape, we didn't take any kind of luggage or baggage. We just only escaped.
We have a challenge. It is mainly relocating the refugees. The process, the trip takes more than 15 hours from this reception center to the Rakuba camp in the Darif state. So it is a lot of work we do.
Refugee, we never expected.
Well, I decided that we, play that video just to remind us. So whenever you are seeing the tweets or you're seeing people post, pray for Tigray, Tigray is, burning or lives are being lost in Tigray, you have an idea, fair knowledge of what the Tigrayans are going through. One last question before we wrap this up. I was just looking at the news and the leader of Tigray is saying that Tigrayans are ready to die. And he has rejected outrightly a call to surrender. What does a call to surrender in this regard mean? Does it mean that you lose your independence as a state? What exactly does that entail? And just bring us up to speed.
Well, it would mean what it has meant in the other regions so far. We exactly know what ideas and what dreams the prime minister has. So first of all, he wants to arrest all the leaders of the TPLF. He wants to arrest all people who have been writing stuff that he doesn't like. And he wants to send puppets, essentially, from Addis Ababa to rule Tigray. And he wants to have Tigray within his arm length to do whatever he wants to do. So that would what surrender would mean. So that would be in sharp contrast to what had just happened, because the Tigray people had voted their leaders in September. So the leader of the Tigray region, although the international media refers to him as the leader of the rebels, he is actually an elected leader of the people in the region. That is something that the international media has got completely wrong, because they refer to them as the rebels, although they are elected government, really, and that is one of the issues.
Were they legally? Because this conversation is setting the record straight. Are they really legally elected to run that office? Because there has to be a reason why they're being referred to as illegals. Was the due process followed in electing these officials?
Because they so again, the federal government's narrative is that they held an election in defiance of the federal government, although the federal government as well was supposed to have held an election in June, but they used the pretext of the COVID-19 and they postponed the election indefinitely. Well, actually, people who observe Ethiopian politics believe that there won't be any election in Ethiopia in the near future, because the prime minister has made it clear that his role model is Isaias Afwerki, the president of Eritrea, and the president of Eritrea doesn't believe that elections are a good thing. He has never had any elections in Eritrea for the last 30-something years. So that is the future that Ethiopia is facing. And the people in Tigray and their leadership in Tigray didn't accept this, because they had paid legs and arms to bring about the constitution that the Ethiopian government pretends to be abiding by today. So as far as the word legal has any meaning, yes, it was a legal election. It was.
There seems to be some form of silence, and that silence can also be misconstrued or perceived as a nod for the prime minister. And I'm talking about silence in terms of the leaders in the East African states. They seem to maybe be okay with what's happening in Tigray, or could they also just be holding off because the prime minister is not letting them in? Do you sense that?
Well, I see two problems in the way that the African leaders are trying to handle the situation. First of all, they haven't been able to communicate with the people in Tigray, so they only have a one-side version of the story. So they only know the government's version of the story. And when you don't know all sides to a story, you are in an extremely difficult position to understand the whole situation. And the second problem is I don't think they understand the intricacies of the politics of Ethiopia. For instance, they don't understand that the prime minister is unelected. That I would have thought would be a very important detail, but no one mentions that. He isn't an elected prime minister because his mandate had expired in September. So I don't think the people who are trying to mediate understand these details and intricacies, and that probably is standing in the way of negotiation and those kind of stuff.
Finally, before we wrap this up, because I think that a lot of people are just left wondering what to do next, because everywhere you turn, there seems to be a shut door in front of you. Will Tigray ever be safe again? With all that's happened, with people who have had to leave their homes to become refugees, people who have even had to lose their lives in a bid to save it. Will it ever be a safe haven? Will it be that home that you used to know, where you used to play and feel safe? Will it ever be that way again?
Well, that is a hope, but it's a very, very difficult question, and my hope, my guess would be as good as yours. I'm sure we are in the dark as to what the future holds for Tigray, but the pervasive understanding and belief among Tigrayans today is that we should push for independence. That has become the overarching view among Tigrayans, at least among Tigrayans that I see on social media. That has become the dominant political view and understanding. So most of us believe that is where we will find solace and safety, and that's the only way to make Tigray a safe haven, at least for the Tigrayan people who have had to endure all kind of problems under the sun for the last, especially for the last 3 weeks. It's unbearable what they might be going through, really.
I cannot begin to imagine. Well, for those who have been watching, we've been taking Tekle's perspective on what's happening in Tigray. Now we've heard news channels give different reports on what's been happening in Tigray, but he's given us an insider's look, and of course, painting a picture to those of us who are out here to give us an understanding of what these people are facing on a daily basis. It's a full-blown humanitarian crisis. Some already call it a genocide. Some call it a full-blown civil war. But we could only hope that, some sense would be brought into all of this, and maybe a truce of some sort. And the Tigrayan People's Front and the government of Ethiopia in general, and the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed would be able to have a consensus of sorts. So, a truce. I think that's the best we can reach for right now. And hopefully the people of Tigray can go back to some peace and calm. But we'll keep our finger on this story. Thank you so much, Tekle Michael, for speaking with us. I know I've had you talking all day, and it's time to.
Yeah, but I would like to thank you, Marianne. I would like to thank you for trying to cover this story. I think it's one of the most underreported major crises unfolding today. It's a shame that it's kind of it's being brushed aside. But I'm very grateful that you have tried your best to give it a coverage, and please do keep it up.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone who's been part of the conversation. Thank you Adam Cobb. Thank you Matt Goldman, Drew Shepard. Thank you Pablo. Familia Ending says, I'll just read her message. She says, my heart hurts, and says blessings to all of us. So thank you all for being part of the conversation. We appreciate your thoughts, your comments. Please repost this video. It's going to be on our Twitter. It's going to be on Facebook. Please repost the video. Let people watch it. Let people have an idea of what's happening in Tigray, and let the people who are following the hashtags continue to push so that lives can be saved instead of being lost. Thank you all for watching. It's been Conversations with Mary Ann. I'm Mariana Kun, and we have been broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you once again, Tekle, for being my guest. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. And that's where we wrap it up for today. I'll be back next week with more on discussions with Marianne. Who knows where we will go next week, Thursday. Have a good evening.